Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. Today we are going to paint a skull with acrylic paints. So let's get started and grab the sketch in the description below. I'm going to start with a size 4 flat brush. Let's take a little bit of black paint. Put that in the middle where the eye is. Then around the outside edge. Then I'm going to pick up some burnt umber and put a little bit of that around this black color just so we get some more depth. Then let's take some burnt sienna and feather a little bit of that in there. Okay, and then let's take some black and put that in this eye on the far side. And we can also put some black in this nasal cavity here. I'm going to take a little bit of the dark brown, put some of that in, then some burnt sienna, mix that in. Okay, so now with this dark brown color, I'm going to go around, just put some marks along this crack here. And then I want to build up the shadows. Let's put some around this shadow. And then you can also put a little bit of black in there so that we're sort of getting some variety of color. And then let's put a darker color over here and then down here. Okay, so now let's work section by section. Let's do the jaw first, and we can stick with this brush. So let's take some dark brown and go around the outside of the jaw. Come down this way, and then there's more shadow underneath the mouth. So you could add a little bit of black in there. And then bring that along the bottom and then over here. Now I want to get lighter. So let's take, I'm going to pick up a little bit of beige and some of the burnt sienna. And let's start bringing that in. It's going to want to mix with that darker color. Bring it down this way. And if it gets too dark, you can rinse off your brush and then pick up some straight beige color. Bring that in the center. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up a 0 round brush. Let's take some of this bluish gray and I'm going to put just a little bit of a highlight with this cool color. And now let's work on this large area here. So for that, let's pick up a bigger brush. This is going to be a size 5 flat brush. And let's put in, I'm going to take some of the dark gray and some of the bluish gray and bring that along this back of the head. Try to get a crisp line as you go along that edge. So I have this dark gray, and then I'm going to pick up the dark brown. And I might even pick up a little bit of black to really emphasize that shadow down here. Okay, and then let's get lighter. So I can take some of this grayish paint. And then let's put some white into that to get a lighter gray color. Then I'm going to bring that up and around. And I might put a little bit of the light blue in there. And then let's take the burnt sienna, mix some gray in there. And then start putting that in along the top. And I want that to be a little bit more muted. So let's add more gray and more white. Could even put a little beige in there as well. And then start bringing this color down. Okay, so I'm starting off with gray tones. And then we're getting lighter as we go towards the center. So I can put a little bit of white. We'll put this area a little darker. And then we can get lighter while we go in towards the center. And then the dark. And then lighter in the center. Okay, and while that's still wet, I'm going to pick up some white and just further put a few highlights here. Just get nice painterly strokes. Okay, so let's go back to a smaller brush. I'll take the size 4 flat brush and let's start putting in, so I'm going to take some dark brown, go around this outside edge, sort of outlining the eye, and then I'm going to take the lighter brown and as we get in towards the center, just outlining in towards the center, we can pick up the beige so that we're a little bit lighter on the inside. That is just helping us get some three-dimensional shape. Okay, and if you want to bring some shadow back in there, you can pick up some of this darker brown and put that in. I'm going to take the dark brown, go around this part, maybe even add a little bit of black. And then the light brown. Okay, and now let's work on the teeth. So for that, let's switch brushes. We'll go back to the size 0 round and we can make a dark color with some black and some burnt umber. And for this, you want to go around the teeth and you can pause the video and really take your time with this. Now I'm going pretty fast. I'm just outlining with this black. And then while it's still wet, we'll fill it in with some colors. So we can take the dark gray and put that towards the front of the teeth. Those are going to be in more shadow. And then as we get towards the back, we're going to get lighter. So you could use the brown in the center. And you can get lighter. So we could use the burnt sienna. And it should still blend. You can get even lighter, so pick up that beige and start putting some beige into the center for the teeth. Okay, you might want to go back and make sure all the little whites of the paper are filled in. And let's let that dry a little bit before we add highlights. Okay, so I'm going to take, let's keep with this 0 round. I'm going to go around and just fill in some little whites of the paper. And now I want to put in some highlights in this area. So let's mix, I'm going to mix the white with a little bit of the beige. And let's get a nice color that's not gonna stand out too much. A little more beige. It's going gray on me because I had some black on the brush. But let's start putting that, just sort of wisping that in where I want some of the highlights. I'm going to come around this area. And then let's bring it down this way. Along this jaw area, we can make sort of put a highlight there. Back here, we can put this as a little bit of a highlight. And along this brow, let's put a little more white in there and create a highlight over the brow. And then we can also put some along this section. And I'm going to bring it along here, along this way, and down this way. And we can put some right here as well. Okay, so let's further highlight this. So with some straight white, I'm going to do a layer of highlight. Using the 0 round, you could go lighter if you wanted to. This is where the ridge of the bone structure is. So we want it to be pretty light. Come along this nose, down here, just going on top of some of these areas. Can go inside the nose. Maybe up here a little bit. Okay. This way. Okay, so I'm just putting these highlights in. And let's make a grayish highlight. So I'm going to take some of the blue with some white, and we can make some cool highlights with this. And we can put that along this edge. And that might need a little more shadow, so we'll take that dark gray and come back and create a little more shadow over here. Okay, I'm gonna bring out the teeth now, so let's use some of that light beige color. And you don't have to, you can just make small strokes to bring these out. You don't have to paint them in exactly. It's just going to be a light highlight. You could also use some of the cool highlight color. Yeah, we can make a few curves down at the bottom to further highlight along the teeth. Okay. Okay, so now you can go back and maybe you want to emphasize some of the shadows more. Bring some of those back if you lost some of that dark color. Could go along and clean up some edges if you need to. You might need a second layer with some of your paint. Try not to overdo it, so you don't want to cover up the nice blending and color transitions that you've already done. Okay. And I think we will call this painting complete. Thank you so much for painting along with me. Like and subscribe for more painting tutorials. If you want to dive deeper into acrylic painting, check out my free guide in the description below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.